David Fincher makes his troubled directorial debut with Alien 3, a dreary final chapter in the original Alien trilogy. Now, this one really divides fans. A lot of people can't even get on board with it right away, seeing as how, after everything they went through in Aliens, Hicks and Newt are killed off in a ship crash in the opening scenes. I'd say that Alien and Aliens make for a pretty good double bill, while Alien 3 is definitely the downer of the party. Still though, I really like this movie. It does work on its own terms and tells an intriguing, emotionally exhausting story, aided by some very impressive visual styles. Of course, one thing I think that will always be debated endlessly is how exactly did that damn alien egg get on the ship? Many people claim that the Queen snuck it in, but I don't know. When you think about it, that doesn't really make sense. But sometimes you just gotta go with it and stop nitpicking. However it got there, it got there. I'm not one to try and poke holes in all the little flaws, so I don't like to fixate on those kinds of things. But one thing I feel is worth complaining about is that while Hicks and Newt's deaths are indeed horrible, instead of just letting the audience move on and enjoy the movie for what it is, instead the deaths are just pushed in our faces. Like, Newt is given an autopsy, put on a slab, cut up, and we even see a quick shot of her chest being ripped open. I thought that was kind of in bad taste. Yes, Ripley is paranoid about the alien, and she wants to know for sure, but the bodies are cremated in the very next scene anyway, so why not just cut to that? After all the initial depression, I think the movie starts to take off, with Ripley once again being the only survivor and nobody believing her, until the body count starts to add up. I thought the alien was particularly interesting and menacing this time around. It's different, it's faster and more beast-like, as it's born of a dog, or an ox, depending on which version you watch. Not all the alien effects are perfect, nor do they composite flawlessly, but computer-generated effects were still a little bit away, and what they accomplished with the technology they had is pretty impressive. And contrary to popular belief, the alien is not rendered in CGI, it's a rod puppet. A key complaint about the movie is that there are too many indistinguishable minor characters. That's hard to argue with, seeing as how, 90% of the cast is bald English men, and it's pretty hard to keep track of them all, but I do think there are some standout characters. Charles Dance was great as Clemens, the prison doctor with his sordid past, and the only character Ripley can trust in the first half of the movie. Ralph Brown was also really good, playing 85, the character nicknamed after his IQ, and I loved seeing the great Pete Postlethwaite playing one of the prisoners, too. The best supporting character of them all has to be Charles S. Dutton as Dylan, though. He's a real badass, especially when, in the end, he actually takes on the alien Mono-E-Mono. Now, it's no secret that there are a lot of problems during the making of the movie. It has to have one of the most publicly problematic productions of the past 20 years. The script was still being written during production. David Fincher constantly battled the studio heads over creative differences, and he has since disowned the film. Fincher rarely talks about his work on Alien 3, but a few years ago he stated in an interview, "My notion was that the third movie would be Ripley's acceptance of the notion of sacrifice. She'd had the me decade of the first movie. She'd come from the periphery of the story. Anybody could be the commander as long as they stuck to their guns and had a moral compass. And then the second movie she found a maternal instinct. And then I wanted the third one to be that she realizes that it's not about her generation. It's really about the future. The notion was to put the monster among the wretched. She was going to galvanize the wretched to self-sacrifice, giving up their lives to save people who had banished them and should have been outside their scope of interest, and that they would find some value in dying for the right reasons. I got fired from it." I do think his vision comes across, though, and I think he should be proud of his work here. Despite all the problems, I think they pulled off a very worthy chapter in the series, and I like the direction the movie went in. They could have easily made this another gun-blazing, explosion-laden action fest, but instead they went with something a little more challenging, a little more meaningful. Saving the world isn't always fun and games, and all too often our favorite characters will get to ride off into the sunset. But that's not the case with Ripley, as she discovers that she has the embryo of an alien queen inside of her, and that there's no way she's going to get out of this predicament alive. Ripley's desperate final battle with the alien is oddly personal this time around. Whether you like some of the sequels or not, it's nearly impossible not to like Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. She's great in the movie, and she gives an outstanding go-for-broke performance. This is the same strong, brave woman from the first two movies, but pushed to the edge and running on fumes. It's actually kind of heartbreaking, especially the scene in the end where the man from the company who designed the Bishop robot, played by Lance Henriksen, is trying to convince her to let them take the alien out of her so that they can destroy it. You can see the temptation in her face, but she knows it's bullshit, and that the only way to ensure the safety of the universe is to kill herself. Now that's harsh. Weaver was great in the other movies, but dare I say that her performance in Alien 3 is the Ripley character at her most endearing. She very much becomes a martyr, and as depressing as it may be, it's a fitting end to the character. Alien 3 has its flaws, and even with the special edition assembly cut of the film readily available on DVD, we'll never really see David Fincher's true envisionment. But this is a really good movie. I can't say that everyone who watches it will fall head over heels in love with it, but it is worth seeing, and it's worth re-watching every now and then to see if your feelings on it change. Verdict: see it.